right, we are live. So, welcome to episode 210 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house, we've got returning for the third time, we've got Spyder Dobrofsky. And Spyder is a screenwriter and film director who first came on when his Tubi original movie, Teardrop, had got the green light. And I had a chance to see it, and I was very impressed. And like we were talking a little bit before, I was impressed by the risk-taking that was in the script and that Tubi had allowed. We had talked about that. And now you have moved into the director's chair, at least for a big feature.
Yes.
I think you said you had done some directing before in smaller things. Is that correct?
Yeah. I directed shorts in like a no budget, micro budget, $10,000 feature, but never like a proper feature. Just more like short films, music video, experimental stuff. So yeah,
well,
this is the first big one. So
that is no longer the case because you are now the director of a major feature film called Down Below. And it is, I got to say, you landed some fucking whales, man. You really fucking did. We're going to have to get into that, how you fucking swung that shit. Because you've got screen legend fucking Eric Roberts. You've got Eric Roberts in there. You've got Alexis Knapp, who may be popping in later on. We'll see what happens and how it plays out. You've got Bai Ling, who is in multiple features, but most notably possibly from The Crow.
The Crow, yeah.
And you've got Doug Jones. Doug Jones, Abe Sapien, working with Del Toro, working in The Shape of Water. Congratulations, man. First of all,
thank you.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's a testament. I really felt that this screenplay I wrote was really special, but I always think that, and it's not always the case. But this one really got the talent from screenplays. When I got these reads, everyone just within sometimes like an hour, half an hour from when it was sent to them, I got an email and a call, I'm in, I love it. It's just one of those lightning scripts that seem to do that. And and again, I'm not even sitting here saying oh, I'm the greatest writer ever. I just think that it was the right story and right characters for these actors at their point in their career, where it was doing something that was very different from what they were doing or had been doing, and that kind of always gives you a nice little bit of a dynamite of getting talent onto your film, is not just writing a great character, but writing a great character and then casting someone who's not the obvious choice for it, because it allows them to really come in and wear a face and play a part instead of just play themselves.
Acting, in other words.
Yeah,
they get to do some acting. Yeah, imagine that.
And a challenge, and for me, the challenge is it does my job for me as a filmmaker and a director, because by casting someone and casting, Eric or Bai Ling or Alexis in a role that I've never seen them do before, it gives this great creative energy where they bring such a great thing to the set, where I'm wow, they've become this great character and I don't really have to do much. I'm just setting the scene and telling a story, and they've really invented these incredible characters from just reading the material, connecting and seeing it in a way that their life experience lends to. So, very people. They're very talented.
They put the character through the filter of themselves.
Yeah.
Let me ask, when you see names like this popping up, like you said, for, I mean, do they actually have to audition? I mean, or do you just like, yeah, let's,
Yeah.
like something like that happens, you're just like, you don't send this one back, if the line goes in the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
What was your reaction to getting them on, and
We
how did it play out?
so the actors, there were plenty of actors who auditioned in the film, but for like some of the top actors of like who have quite a bit of clout, like really it's a lot of it was like meeting before and like me kind of pitching the story and the idea, and then them reading the material, and then more of like a meet, where I'd meet with them and we'd sit and we would really see if they were good for the part, like if they were right for the film. Obviously all these actors I knew were talented, and it's, they're extremely talented. I, grew up watching their films, but the big question that I want to know is, are they truly right for this story? Um, and that, because that sometimes, I look at, like, I was telling somebody, I was like, I almost look at like directing is like you're making this like big like salad, right? And you're like trying to put all these ingredients in, and you might accidentally have something that like is really good on its own, like some like fruit. But if you put like the wrong fruit into a salad, it's like, unless you're making a fruit salad, like it can just be disgusting in there and not fit. So you can have really talented people in your film, but if they're not in the right genre and tone and falling under the same spell of like a cohesive story, then they're kind of not really bad in the movie, because either the movie sucks and they're really good, or they don't fit into the movie. So, but really, they read the material, and then loved it, and then I met with most of them, and then we just spoke for a couple of hours, and over lunch or whatever, like about the story, and we just talked and talked, and by the end of it, it was always like, oh my gosh, you're just perfect for this. And just their level of passion that all these people had was like, for the story, like, that, like, I've already shared it, but I getting to work with Eric, my brother is the cinematographer of the movie we're doing, that we're in post down below. And like, we started making films in our backyard, 10 years ago. And we just had this moment where it was just like, to get this like special shot, we couldn't have the rest of the crew because it was like a very tight space to get it. And it was just like me, my brother Dash, and Eric just like filming, and he's like, do it again, like I gotta do this better, let's block it this way. And it was just like, the guy was like as passionate and like, a big kid with his toy kind of vibe as us. And it was just a surreal moment of being like, oh, one of these legendary actors that I looked up to, it was just like me, like just loves making movies and loves the like unpacking of every single angle and shot, and like giving it his all, and trying to like be creative and be like, how do we do this better? And this line, what if I did this? It was just, it was awesome, man. It was great.
It's good to hear that, when you get a veteran actor like Eric Roberts, or some of the other people here, that they are still very much almost fanboys
Yep.
Of the
Totally.
genre, and that are taking these things seriously, and that you are, nothing is automatic. There are still decisions to be made. A name isn't enough.
Yep.
That it has to click. The pieces have to click. And that you're still making those decisions, which is good to hear.
Yeah.
Because it could be just as easy to say, "Wait, I've got Eric Roberts, yeah, let's go." I've got
Yep.
Doug
Yep.
Jones, let's go.
Yep.
But you
No,
still
it's so
have to
true.
make sure that the fit is correct.
You got to make a great story and a fit, and actually push,
For
and really, that idea too. And that's what I loved, was like, when I met Eric, and we were on set, it was like, we shot like our days, like it was long, and we were working hard, and it was like, I just turned 30. I'm a young guy. I'm just starting my career, and I'm like, this guy is like, a legend, has been on so many sets, and I'm like, I'm gonna push you, man. Like I want to get this, and his reaction is like, yeah, boss, I'm here to be pushed. Like, I'm trying to make this thing great too, and do service this character. And it's like, oh, this isn't like, right. This is us actually just truly collaborating and truly being on the same page where like this guy is here on this day right now to make this movie specifically, not to make movies, to make this movie, to play this character. And it's like, he doesn't want to leave until I've gotten what I needed to get to tell the story and tell the tale with his character. And so it's like, it just made my job very easy.
That's got to be a great feeling,
yeah.
And to see, it's got to be a
easier.
great feeling to see that, the call that you made.
Yep. It worked.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And that was, exactly, man. And it was like that experience was great too, because it kind of set the precedent for the rest of the film, which was like, this legendary guy is the most passionate, humble, like ready to work. Like, we're here, we're like pushing, we're trying to make great stuff. I'm like, that is how I am. It's how I've always been. It's the way that I treat all of my crew and cast, every extra. I know every single person on my film. And I know them well, and I would do their job, and I'm, always there. And so to have the big top dog legend guy be there, and to also have that level of, egolessness of just sitting and just, we had lunch and he's just eating burgers with like some of the gaffer guys, and like, just, it was like everybody is here out of passion first. And it just set the thing. I was like, oh, this is how I'm going to make movies for the rest of my life. Just trying to, approach it from a very egoless, story is king. And the only arguments that should be on set should come from like, how do we make this story better? Like what's not happening here? Yeah.
Let me ask you something. Do you think that this is part and parcel of understanding that you're working in, the independent film sector, so to speak, and so, that sort of, passion, as you're saying, that sort of fire, really sorts to, come forward. I mean, especially when you're starting off with the script. You're starting off with the script. And so maybe you're writing something like we've talked about before with Teardrop, that's taking chances, that's taking risks. Other people read this and they're like, this is something, I want to be involved in. This doesn't feel like, an AI wrote it, or, somebody just kind of phoned this thing in. And so, maybe, the big names, sort of appreciate that at the independent level, because they have a better idea that, it's just not going to be some big, 8-figure, 9-figure sort of CGI fest, that you're actually going to get into a story, and that, there's a character here with depth, and that you can play with that a little bit, and, maybe, tweak it, here and there, whereas necessarily for something, huge, you probably don't have the performers, one, but
safe.
they don't have the freedom. They don't have that freedom.
No, yeah. I mean, for sure. You nailed it, for sure. And, this script, that the movie that we're in post on, it's a super original film. I mean, I was, quite frankly, when the film got into the hands of these actors, there was a part of me that said, I hope they understand this crazy movie that I wrote, because it's a really ambitious screenplay that really kind of reinvents the narrative devices and storytelling. And it's not conventional, and it's much more in like the, Memento, Pulp Fiction kind of like reinventing thing, except nothing like those movies as well. And it's its own thing. And so there's the risk of like, I was like, so actually the actors' responses was actually really validating that the screenplay was working, because I knew that the screenplay was special, but there was a part of me that was like, I hope that it actually translates all this stuff that I'm trying to do, this ambitious kind of, psychological horror stuff that's like, really deep and really out there. And so, the actors reacting the way they did, and also the challenges that I personally think it was, of it being not like them at all, and them really having to play something different, I think created this kind of electricity on set where, like, I mean, I really had a very easy time working with all these people, you know. And I worked on short films with actors who pain in my ass and made me want to quit directing, and these people were I can't wait to make the next movie. You know, it's like, it was a really great experience.
All right, well, let's take a minute and take a look at the Deadline article that we talked about. And I mean, here you are. This is from, let's see, November 15th, so not that long ago, 1 month exactly. Today's December 15th. It said Doug Jones, Bai Ling, and Alexis Knapp joined cast of Spyder Dobrofsky horror film Down Below. Now, when you were on last time, we hadn't gotten these other names. We were just talking about Eric.
Yeah, Eric was the person we had done. Yeah. We got a lot of momentum after I'd spoken to you. That's why I was so excited to come back on, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, we got, you know, I'm a big fan of all of Doug Jones's work. You know, I love Guillermo del Toro films, and I love the show he was in called Falling Skies. Did you ever see that?
Okay. No, I have not.
It was like a TNT, like alien Spielberg produced TV show, and he played this alien, man. And it was so gritty, and I was like, I just loved it. And I didn't even know who he was when I watched it, because he's kind of a chameleon. You know, he really disguises himself in every sort of creature and thing he does, and performance. And then, of course, Bai Ling was like, I mean, I have so much to talk about her. Like, she's in Entourage, and she was in Crank, High Voltage, and some of the movies I'd known about her. And, you know, specifically, it was like, I want her for this part. But again, I don't know if this part is just too outrageous and dark and twisted. And she was just like, so
she was right for it,
and like so much fun to work with. And, you know, we had this big, like, from one of her scenes, this big, like, strip club rented out. It was crazy, man. Like, it was nuts. And she just, her outfits and her energy and she's like a big kid who loves her toys too, of like the character and creative, and like learning more about the backstory and what I'm trying to do. And, you know, they're the kind of people that you feed a note, and I'm not feeding a note ever. What's cool about working with very experienced actors is when you feed them a note, it's not like, hey, like, be a better actor. It's like, you know, I think that I want to try to put more emphasis on the mystery part of this film here, and not on the whatever. So, like, I want to try to put like an exclamation point on this line, because that's what's happening, you know, in the other part of the story. So I kind of want to, you know, that's how I'm thinking from the story point of view. And you feed them this idea, and they're like, and you're like, okay. And then you roll another take, and it's like, how do they just incorporate that, like, effortlessly into everything? You know, it's just they're pros. You know, they're the best at what they do. And same with Alexis. You know, she's a very special actress, and a very intuitive girl who's, you know, smart and quick. You know, and hopefully
there was nobody. Yeah, right. There was nobody on the list. I mean, Alexis especially, who did not have like quite an impressive list of credits to their name. You know, whether she was doing independent films, or, you know, where she was doing Percy Jackson, or she was doing those Pitch Perfect series. Family Guy. I mean, you know, she did a couple, you know, some indie horror kind of stuff. Everybody here has just a library of credits. But let me ask you something. Oh, let's get into the article, and then we can start to talk, you know, some specifics about the film. Hold on a second. It says Doug Jones, Shape of Water, Hellboy, Bai Ling, The Crow, Crank, High Voltage, and Alexis Knapp, Pitch Perfect and Project X, have joined. What happened? Eric Roberts in Spyder Dobrofsky's psychological horror film Down Below. The film centers on a young sheriff and a criminal suspect who find their lives intertwined when both become haunted by a sinister force on Christmas Eve. Roberts portrays an intelligent police psychologist who's having a tough time with his current patient, a cop recently suspended for an act of violence on a civilian. And then we get into the repping issues and, you know, who's repped by what. But, I mean, tell us a little bit about the premise. So, I mean, is that, do you want to shed any more, or do you want to, you know, kind of keep it, you know, under wraps for now? Or
Yeah, I think
just the story in general, the summary?
yeah. I think I'm keeping it under wraps just a little longer because I think there's going to be a trailer coming out in January and stuff.
Oh,
So
nice. Okay.
yeah, so and again, like it's funny because like I know what the movie's about for myself, and it's certainly ambitious and scary and it's funny for me having done the Teardrop movie and then also coming from the Christmas movies to kind of like blend a little bit of stuff that I loved so much from both of those genres. And but Alexis is playing an actual like high end like prostitute character in the film named Charisma, and that character I think someone put it out on some sort of other bloody disgusting thing, so that's public. And her character can kind of like somewhat maybe communicate with some sort of realm that may be ghosts or not. So that's her
Okay.
character, a really great character for her, and she is so amazing in the film. I mean, like I told her admittedly, like I had not seen the Pitch Perfect films. They're
Right.
very big movies. When we were on set, I had some of my friends. I remember I posted some photo, and they're like, "Man, that's like Stacy from Pitch Perfect," and I was like, "Great."
Yeah.
I,
I don't think those were guy kind of movies,
yeah,
but
yeah,
you
they were
know,
very centric films. So, and that's probably her big thing. And she was in Project X as well, which I
right.
saw in high school. But when we met, like, she just like responded to the script in a way that and I told her, and she knows it, and I say it out loud. I spent so many months trying to cast her character and not finding it and looking through thousands of self tapes, thousands, that I actually, there was a point where this summer I considered just cutting the character out of the whole film because I was beginning to believe that I could not cast the part. And I was like, I need to finish this story, and this character is impossible to cast. So it must be something to do with either I don't know how to cast it yet, or it's something to do with my writing, and I'm going to cut it. And then right around that time, after I was like, had actually made some peace with it. I had made peace with the idea of cutting the character, where I wasn't like pleased about it because I'm like, this character has this like this kind of femme fatale, you know, heart like Megan Fox in Transformers or type like special quality. But if I don't cast it right, it's just going to be a really unlikable like character, and I need someone who can do this, who can play the like a prostitute, but also play someone who's kind of has some sort of supernatural quality, and I couldn't find it. So I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna cut it.
That's a difficult description there.
Yeah,
Not just anybody could do something like that. That wouldn't, or that could do it in a way that you probably that would meet up to your standard.
yeah, and
That's not the typical thing.
and we continued to shoot the movie with that part. Like we're in production, money's burning, and I'm like, let's just keep shooting the rest of the movie, and I will find a way to cut this whole character out if we can't cast it and fill the blanks and tell the pieces of the story that character would tell. Because we'd already shooting Eric. I'm deep in the movie, and I've got investors and people like, hey, like, and again, and I say this, and because one of my main things, and you see me on Twitter, is like I am all for talent, young artists, old people following their dreams, making their things happen, and the sheer amount of self tapes that I saw through, because was on the breakdowns, we had like an enormous amount of submissions, because of I think the role and Eric and just the time period before the SAGs or during the SAG strike or whatever, and I saw so many talented actors and actresses read for it, but they just weren't right. So it was like it wasn't a talent thing. It was like they're missing this quality that I know this character needs for it to work. And then I met Alexis, and we just we clicked, and she was the girl, and within weeks we're shooting, and I'm like, I can't imagine. The character's so one of my favorite characters in the film, and I can't imagine, but her not being it and not having it on film. But there was a time where I was like, I'm cutting this thing, man. Like, I'm just gonna cut it. And it's weird. That's the weird part about being a filmmaker, is you also have to exist in the reality where things aren't working.
But it sounds like also like Providence can play a bit of a role, and things panning out. So by showing patience and just sort of letting the process play out, you get what you need, exactly. So to speak. Not to sound like Mick Jagger or anything, but
no, I like
he had a point back then. Listen, we got some comments here. Let's get into that for a second. We got Patrick from A Half Cheetah Will View, and he's saying what's happening. I think you've been on his channel maybe once before.
Yeah.
And he says Eric Roberts rocks Bai Ling, Doug Jones from Legion. Yeah, Legion was another movie that he was in. Very physical actor, Doug Jones. That sort of physicality. And I don't want to ask you to show us too much behind the curtain, but that kind of physicality is kind of what he's known for.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. He said that Eric Roberts has become a horror semi-legend now. Now, for me, Eric Roberts goes back to Best of the Best. And then, you see him in the second Prophecy movie where he plays the Archangel Michael, opposite Christopher Walken. And then, the list goes on. And Nolan in The Dark Knight, which I couldn't believe sitting in there opening night in The Dark Knight in the theater. And suddenly, Marone, and I'm like, is that Eric Roberts? I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. It's fucking Eric Roberts. Jesus Christ.
I want to try to get him on the show, man. I really do. I'm going to see what I can do.
I appreciate it.
He's always traveling, like he's always shooting something, man. He's like an 18-year-old just hopping on jets and on sets and shooting late nights. It's just awesome, man. And him and his wife are just like the nicest people ever, man. I mean, they're like family to me now.
Hey, man, movement is life,
Yeah. They're a testament. And he told me, and I will share, he told me, like, we were shooting our lunch, and he's like, Spyder and Dash, he's like, guys, take a pause here and just understand that you are doing the best job in the world. He's like, this is it. Like, you soak it in. Like, making movies is like, he's like, I'm doing my whole life. It is the greatest part of my life. And I was like, wow. Like, it was just, man, he was a sage guy, Reminded me of my
awesome, man.
He's very much like my dad. Very much fit. They're characters, they're good dudes, but characters.
Maybe at some point you'll have a chance to work together again,
I do. I want to see if I can get him on, so I'll see what I can do. He's just hard to get.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Listen, we got Eric here, and he's saying, Eric from Hey Internet Eric here. He's a friend of the show, and he's saying, welcome back to the show, Spyder. And he says, Eric Roberts is so great, especially when he's playing the villain. Villains are more do you find that villains are more difficult to write for as opposed to the hero or the anti-hero? Sometimes the anti-hero is very popular, and so what you really have to write is someone who's just a little worse. Tons of shows like Breaking Bad and these are awful people, The Shield and Sons of Anarchy, these sorts of things, but they're not good people, but you just line them up against somebody worse. What is your opinion on writing villains? Is it easier for you? Because it's situational.
I think that the part about the villain that's easy to write is that there's a level of freedom you have, because a villain can basically not operate by the things that that keep most of your characters restrained to. They have a level of chaos or lawlessness or whatever their thing is that just gives you as a storyteller a lot of freedom. But I think what makes a villain very hard to write is actually grounding their psychology and grounding their mania, so that they aren't just these babbling psychopath characters, which I'm not personally a fan of. I really, when a motive is bad and a motive and I hate when a performance actually is like, which is why I don't think there's that many good serial killer films. Is quite frankly, you know, like Kevin Spacey, John Doe, and Seven is so good because as fucking batshit crazy as the John Doe character is, just by simply the way they show his little world and things, the way that Kevin Spacey played it is, man, the guy is fucking patient and calculated and just smart in a scary way. And you're like, this guy is frightening instead of just like a blabbering, you know, I kill people, blah, 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 which a lot of serial killer movies kind of take on.
They have to. I think that the villain kind of has to make in a low key way. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
you know, they have to believe that they're right.
Yep.
You know, I think the ultimate version of that is Ledger in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
You know, he sort of makes sense. It's twisted and it's awful, and you're like, yeah, this guy is like way across the the morality line.
Yeah.
But you know, you're like,
they say stuff that makes sense on a non-human core concept, right?
Yeah,
it's like Thanos, right? It's like Thanos. He's like when they say something that you can like in some weird delusional way, like I understand what they're saying here.
Yo, you there? Uh-oh. Have we frozen up? Uh-oh. Having a little internet trouble here. Uh-oh.
Oh, there we go. There you go.
Yeah, there you are. All right. Good to have you back. You were talking about Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos. Anyways, just a good villain should basically have some sort of delusional logic that actually makes sense with the larger purpose of what their grandiose scheme, which is why I personally don't like drawing too much from real life, because in real life they're just fucking evil people because they're just fucking evil, you know. Yeah. But we don't watch movies for that reason. We watch movies to be pitted against villains that have a point, you know, a point that's against the main character. So, you know, unless you're making a biopic where it's like you can make Jeffrey Dahmer's story, but you tell me Jeffrey Dahmer's justification, and I just say that he's a fucking evil piece of shit.
Did you see that? Did you see that Dahmer thing on Netflix with Evan Peters?
I watched one, and it was so fucking scary and disturbing.
Yeah.
It was
that first episode where he's just in the room. The whole episode is him in the room with that guy, and I'm like, "What the fuck am I watching here?" Holy shit, he was good though.
He was great. The filmmaking is great. It was, for me, just so real and so disturbing that I almost was like, I just can't watch this show anymore. Like, even though I actually think they pulled off a very frightening version of something that felt very real and scary, but I was just like, and I got a pretty good stomach for stuff, and I was like, man, this is like almost NC-17 just from how dark, like, you know,
it was NC-17 tension. Like if he had just turned into a tarantula right there on the screen, you wouldn't have been surprised. All right, let's keep moving on. We got John K. Alvarez, who says, and he's about a 40-year veteran of the stage and screen. He did some work in 12 Monkeys.
Oh, cool.
And it says, if you don't have passion, don't step on the set or the stage.
Amen, John.
He said Eric Roberts is one of my favorites. Good to hear he still has that passion.
Oh, my God.
Patrick says, hey, man, you're on the rise. And, there's no argument there. The Crow. Okay, so Bai Ling. Yeah, Bai Ling, one of my favorites. She's so good. And what's this about? Okay, he owns all 3 Pitch Perfect films. Okay, so there's somebody out there.
Somebody out there. There's a male watching who owns the Pitch Perfect.
And he's in the stream, apparently. All right. So let me ask you this: what do you find that you adjust your directing style? Is it that you're very procedural and you're like, I want 1, 2, 3, 4, and set it up that way, or do you just kind of give people a general sense and then just say go and give them a little freedom? There's no wrong answer. I mean, I don't know, what your directing style is, because you hear about so many different directors and they do their thing. People like Michael Mann, with like 1,000 takes of everything. What's your approach to direction? especially in situations like this with
Yeah.
these veterans.
Yeah, I'm much more like your second one. I don't like to micromanage. I like the process of really collaborating with the talent and really trying to like guide them towards the water, where I'm like, this is what I'm trying to do, and I don't want to say that I know how to do it, and I don't know what it sounds like. I don't know what it looks like. I know what I'm supposed to feel and see, and it's like I really give them the reins to like explore it, and then when I see it, I then try to dial that notch into keeping it there. But I really believe that my job as a director is when I find the person who's the best suited for the character, my job ultimately is done, because they usually bring all of the magic to that character, and I'm just trying to put them in the scenario. I'm trying to paint the picture, put the props in front of them, put the light, really create the feeling, and let them do what they're so damn good at. They're like fine-tuned instruments, and just help them try to figure out what the story is about and the character is about, so that they can bring it to life, not me. That's the truth, is that they're the people who are bringing it to life. And so the more that they know and understand, the more choices they can make, and then their choices are just autopilot. So I really feel I'm much more on the raw, like finding stuff on the date director than like the hard shot list. We're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. Like, I feel the greatest miracles on this film where like you have production problems. We show up, it's supposed to be raining, it's sunny. It's sunny as hell. and some people would be like, well, let's this. I'd be like, well, I wrote the script, and I'm also saying, guys, right here, this is how we could technically shoot this in the sun. And if we would, I'd put this person here. I'd have this, and I would orient things to what the magic was there. And I got to work with a great child actor. His name is I think he's a first-time actor. His name is William Ford, and he's 7 years old.
Okay.
Really young, but playing a great horror movie character, child. And it was, I actually feel very blessed that I had this past summer got to really work with a bunch of kids at the surf camp. Before we started shooting the film. So I got a chance to work with like young kids and communicate with them. And it was just perfect, because I was, working with a kid who really is dealing with content that is very dark and very R-rated and disturbing, but him not knowing what the content is, and shielding him from that and protecting him from that, but also getting him to say and be in those scenarios was an incredible challenge. But this kid is going to be, he's going to be a major guy. He's got that quality, that ET quality. And again, I found him from the submissions. We got a bunch of kids submitted, and this kid, I saw him, and the second I saw his tape, I looked to my brother and casting director, and I was like, this is our kid. And he flew out from, I think him and his family live. They've got like 10 kids, and they're all actors. It's crazy. They're great people. But working with a child actor was a different type of directing that I'd been used to. And it was like trying to stimulate his imagination and give him things not in an adult way. Cause like, he doesn't have a concept of what the stuff that's being said. It's not like, it's not a child's movie. So how do I get him to say the thing with the context that I needed?
Right. Yeah.
Right. When that context, I can't explain to him, like, this is about what happens to people, after this age. It's like, he doesn't know it, but it's like, but I still needed to have that thing. And so communicating to him in a different way and stimulating his imagination and his excitement. But this kid was having a blast, man, because we had a big hazer with the making haze in the film, so we could have a great lighting. And this kid just loved turning on the hazer. So it was like, all right, you turn on the hazer and back, we're going to do this. And he just, we had a great time. We worked like 3 days with him. So that was a wild experience for me, working with a 7-year-old kid.
My opinion of child actors, especially, as it applies to horror and things like that, has greatly evolved.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think much of it to begin with, and you could pick out some big features that had kids in them, and you're like, yeah, you shouldn't have had somebody like that in there.
Yeah.
But I mean, now, and I've covered so many different films and, reviews and things like that, and I'm just like, wow, like, how is that person able to do that? It's just, it's stunning.
Stunning.
Just, amazing ability. And I don't know whether it's just an evolution in storytelling or direction, or just an evolution, in performance, or all three across the board. But yeah, my opinion has definitely changed, going into 3 years now of doing this.
You were like more in the company that a lot of the child actor performances are like pretty cheesy and fake and like don't work.
Yeah, I mean, look at Donner. Look at Donner in. Look at like Donner's The Omen. I'm like, The Exorcist can't be a the Antichrist can't be a 5-year-old boy. He just stands there and stares at you. I'm like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And a couple other things that I brought up, and I'm just like this is not scary. This is dumb.
Yeah.
But then we had gotten to a point, I think, where they did that remake with Liev Schreiber and Julia Stiles, and for some reason that kid was just scary looking. Or you could look at like Carrie Henn, who, I mean, she's working with Cameron and Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, little Newt. She's hitting it out of the park. Or you're looking at something like the kids in M. Night Shyamalan's Signs, Mel Gibson's children. I think it's Rory Culkin or one of the Culkin kids.
Amazing. Yep.
Yeah, and or some, a couple of the kids that were in that other movie, the Black Coat's daughter, and you're just like, holy shit, this kid is good. So
I learned, I'll say I learned a lot about how to work with this kid from I remember like specific got his imagination going, and I was like, wow, like he's really trusting in that as a kid, your imagination is just so potent that you could actually have him see something, because kid, and having just had work with kids, and like some of the ways I'd get them to surf or go in the pool or bottom to get toys, it'd be like really like, hey, like there's a dragon layer down there, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I kind of just do the same thing here, because at 7 years old, like you can. And so I think maybe the filmmakers now, and certain ones like Spielberg, just understood like that you really have to stimulate the kid's imagination and try to match whatever it's supposed to be. And don't just like treat them like actors. Like, hey, all right, go be happy. Like, what? That doesn't mean anything to you.
yeah.
Then it'll be bad. Yeah, like they'll do this. Like
you could do a lot worse than taking tips from Spielberg.
Yeah.
Two questions, two final questions, and then we'll see what happens. One, how bad did you get bit by the strike? And the second one, I guess, what are we looking at in terms of a release date? Because I know we had talked before, and this is kind of it's a winter movie.
It's a winter
kind of holiday movie, and so one question kind of leads into the other.
Yeah. So the strike, we didn't really get affected by the strike.
Okay.
We had shot a bunch before, and then we had hit pause, and then basically just the timing was just perfect. Just even leading up to the strike, there was a lot of big productions that shut down, but we didn't shut down because we didn't need to.
Oh, okay.
Like before the strike happened, like a lot of people, like, so we basically put our pause on after wrapping a lot of the production, a lot of core elements and a lot of challenging things. And, during the strike, I really, luckily, I did a lot of insert stuff and a lot of like principal photography. Like, to make a horror film, you need to get these incredible landscapes and spooky shots of towns, which took a lot more time than, for me. I really try to make sure that every frame of the film is kind of has some feeling to it. So it was quite a bit of work. And then once things resolved, we just kind of finished up.
Okay.
And yeah, it really didn't affect us. But again, we weren't working on a, massive $50 million movie. And Yeah, it wasn't too much of a problem. Only just I'm glad everyone got the deals and everything they're happy with. And then as far as the release date, so we're in post now, and the film, we got a really great cut, but the level of post production that this film requires, from sound design, Foley, coloring, and score, makes it a little bit longer than I ever anticipated. That it's like, oh wow, like you really need, I need the score of this film to be so good. It
Okay.
has to be this thing. And we have a couple of distributors who are speaking to us right now, just off the cast and the cut, and then some sales reps too. But there's also, there's the film festival route, which the cool thing about the film festival route is that the film would actually start to get seen by the world before the official release, which I kind of like the idea of, because in my mind, there's no way to make a Christmas horror movie that doesn't release kind of around the holidays.
Right.
But which sucks because the holidays are pretty far away. So I think that the film festival route would be very cool. Again,
Okay.
it depends on the distributor, but like that would be a way for me to get the film out and people to start being able to see it and review it before an official release. Like,
Right. Right. Okay.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's great. And just some of the distributors we'd spoken to,
Hey
felt
man, I don't want to, but you're like, you've gone,
Oh,
you've
yeah.
gone to black.
Oh, have I gone to black?
Yeah, you've gone to black.
Oh, really? Here.
Yeah, it's dark or something. It's getting dark out.
Oh, how about now? Is it the lights off?
Yeah, lights or something. Yeah. Oh, there you go. All right, I can see you again.
Oh, man. You know what? It must have gotten dark actually out. There we go.
We've been talking for a little bit.
I've
There
been,
you go. All right, I can see you now.
I've been slowly dimming the lights down in the film. But yeah, it's another really interesting thing is that we had a distributor, who pretty major one, tell us that he felt the film could work in a limited theatrical release.
Okay.
So, again, I'm trying to get a grip just with the team and marketing and the state of film and the state of streamers. What does it mean to release a movie on the streamers versus what does it mean to release
Right.
in select theaters around the country? And so that's the kind of really interesting conversations that are opinion based, because I could release in a theater or I could release to a streamer, and which is better, and what's the audience? And so it's a very interesting time to make a movie as well.
Yeah, better is like a relative term.
It's
Better it can include many things, because if you go the theatrical route, you have to go marketing and budget, and these sorts of things. And then if you go direct to streaming, how do you get the word out?
How do you get the word out? Yeah, and
I
feel like I haven't seen that many streamer films that some of them for me feel like they get a little lost, like they don't quite get the word of mouth thing going.
Yeah.
The excitement of films that I like and I think are good, but they just kind of like disappear into the void. And so that was where I was also told that the film festival route for this film could be really interesting, because it's not just like it's not like a conventional slasher horror film. It's like a very smart kind of, Babadook kind of, more in that realm, more in the Shining realm. And it says a lot about some stuff. So again, I'll know and soon, but it's funny, you spoke about it. The conversations are changing about what is better. What is, what do audiences want to watch? How do they want to watch? I'm trying to keep my ears to the ground as well, and really listen and figure out what does an audience want to do nowadays? And for a movie that has some suspense and horror, is that something they want to go to theaters, or do they want to watch that at home, on Netflix or Hulu or whatever?
I'm always of the opinion that, here's a question I was gonna ask, but it's not like when I sit in the theater, where do you sit in the theater? When you go to a movie, where do you sit?
I probably sit like in the middle area.
Same here. I sit in the middle row,
middle
seat.
Guy.
Yeah, middle. But I mean, like I went to just see. I'm thinking of the last horror movie I saw, but I mean a bunch of others. Something like The Nun 2.
Yeah.
you know, and that's just great. I mean, you just got big sound and, you know,
Yep.
big jump scares, and, you know, it's not, you know, some complex story. It's a sequel, you know, from the
Yep.
Conjuring universe or
Yep.
something like that.
Conjuring universe. Yep.
But then I went to see Godzilla -1, which is quite complex for a Godzilla movie. It's fucking awesome in the
Wait,
theater.
Godzilla -1 is what is that anything to do with the King Kongzilla universe, or is
No,
that
this is Japanese.
okay? So yeah, it sounds like my cup of tea actually.
Yeah, it's Japanese, like Japanese language subtitles. Takes place set 10 years after World War II. Japan still reeling from the war, that kind of stuff. If I go to see Gareth Edwards do The Creator, yeah, I want to see that on the screen.
Yep. Creator. Yep.
Whew. Yeah. So I mean, I like sitting there with my bowl of popcorn in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, I'm just one guy. Some people think the best seat is on their couch.
Yeah, I know. That's what's so funny is that I love movie theaters, and the goal when starting this all was like is movie theaters for me, you know. But I also have had all of my movies that I've made have all been straight or Peacock original, straight to Peacock release, straight to Tubi original, up TV Hallmark debut, you know. So it's interesting to see the changing landscape and what it takes to open in a theater, and how do you open in a theater in a way that makes a splash without having, you know, the Avengers $250 million marketing budget.
It's tough. I just saw The Holdovers with Paul
Oh,
Giamatti.
Alexander Payne. Yeah.
Oh man, it's probably the best movie I've seen all year. But it was gone in like 2 weeks. You know, it went straight to video. And I'm like, how could you do that? How could you rock? Like, I literally sat there in the theater and I was laughing till like tears were coming down my eyes. And, you know, and then it would just switch over and go poignant, you know, super poignant because, you know, the source, you know, the story itself.
Yeah.
And, you know, 2 weeks later, oh, we're going straight to video. I'm like, the fuck, man?
So
fucking executives.
Yeah, so it's like all this stuff you're telling me too. I'm so very conflicted on all of it because I want the movie to do as well as possible because I think the movie people are really going to like it, and I want to keep making movies. And I think there are such special performances and storytelling abilities in the story, but I also am like, how do I reach that audience? Who is that audience? Are the people like that I know are out there that are just total movie fanatics like myself? Are they staying in, or are they going out to theaters? And I guess I'm just collecting a lot of data right now, you know, because I've heard what the marketing people have told me, and a lot of them push for the digital release, but I still, in my heart of hearts, feel that the movie theater experience is how this film should be seen and experienced, just in the same way that the movies that I think so fondly of were theater experiences.
If the film, you know, just my, you know, literal 2 pennies. If the film festival route gives you some breathing room, then
and that was the idea, is the film festival route gives it breathing room. The distributors like that, and the sales rep, and then also it gives it a chance for people to actually see it in theaters and start talking about it, so that the early critics of the film aren't getting sent a streamer, you know, like they're actually going there. And I you know, just the way even the way I made my early films, the way I mixed them in sound and score, I always imagine things for theaters, because you're not, when you're mixing something for a TV, you're really trying to like make it impactful for TV, but a theater has so much power because of the booming sound that you and that shouldn't be abused, by the way. That doesn't mean you blast your soundtrack through the roof, you know.
No.
But it gives you a chance to like really dance with the audience in a way that you can't do when someone's, you know, hey, like I have my, you know, 40-inch Panasonic. It's like, okay, well, I that model, and if I were to have you watch it around the world, I'd probably I'd go to people's houses around the world and fix all their color settings and their sound settings.
And at least upgrade them to like a fucking 75. Jesus Christ.
Put you on a sound bar, okay? Like I can't. You're listening to this film on 12 volume. You just missed the opening, you know. So it's funny that these things are these are the new questions of the modern storyteller, the modern filmmaker, the modern critics, the modern world. And I personally feel that a lot of people are much more excited about being challenged and watching great cinema than a lot of, you know, film creators give their audience credit for. I'm a believer that the audience likes to be challenged and wants to see new stuff and wants to be at the edge of their seat and wants to go to these theaters and aren't totally tripping about spending $18, $20. They only don't want to do it when the movie sucks. There's been a lot of crappy movies that made people upset about spending money on tickets and popcorn for their.
People are starved. People are starved for good movies, man. They're not starved for expensive movies. They're not starved for special effects. They're starved for a good story. That's what moviegoers want, man.
Yeah.
They want a good story. Like I have the Regal app, and so every time I go to the movies, it's like 53 cents. And I went to see the Marvels, and I wanted my 53 cents back. Why did you do this to me? You know, I thought you guys liked me over here. You know, Jesus Christ.
And that's the power of a bad movie. A bad movie can be so bad that it's like it ceases to be like. I went into the Writers Guild and saw a movie that I won't name that was so bad, and I get to see all the movies at the Writers Guild for free. If you're ever in town, man, you should come with. I can bring guests too. But this movie was so bad that I was like, I didn't even spend money on this, and I'm pissed, and I want my life back.
You want your time back. It's an investment of your time. Yeah, because I got to tell you, I went. And 53 cents, I wanted it back. My buddy, who lives across the street, took his 14-year-old son. He spent $40 because I bought my tickets, and then I'm like, hey, I'm going. Do you want to go? Because I'm thinking, well, I spent 53 cents. Let's go hang out. He's like, do you mind if I bring my son? I'm like, I guess not. You know, he's 14. He's not going to talk to us. But all right, no problem. He spent $40 to watch the Marvels. He was not pleased. And I could, you know, I'm his buddy, so I thought it was funny as shit. But, you know, And
that's why this movie, the conversation of movies is so sensitive, is that people have gotten tired of that experience happening over and over and over. $20, and then all of a sudden the cause is hate. It's movies are too expensive, but I don't really think it's that. I think everything is expensive when it sucks. And so you know, what the real solution is to make movies that are a little bit that are not a little bit, that are honest,
movies that don't suck.
That don't suck.
This isn't high math here. Just give me a fucking movie that doesn't suck. I'll put the 20. Forget the 53 cents. I'll give it $20. You know, just
and that's the thing too, is like it's shocking that like I even feel like the studio crappy movies of the older era didn't suck. They were fun, and they were light, and they weren't that like deep, and they weren't that long lasting. But I never went to a movie and was like, oh, I'm bored. It was just like, that shit was a little cheesy, or whatever thing, you know. You know, I like the you know, like it's like the original Mummy and the original Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff. They're good movies, you know. They're not like master classes in cinema or Scorsese films. But now a lot of those movies for me, I'm like, these are not good anything. I don't watch them. And it's like, oh, well, someone will tell me, hey, well, you don't watch them because you're not a fan of that. It's like, no, I am a fan of that stuff. I know every element about even these bad movies. I'm so much a fan. They've just now reached this caliber that's so low for me that I just don't even find it entertaining because it's just so boring or whatever.
Like I was telling you, I have 3 levels. I don't know if I told you this before, but the lowest level is just content. It's just content. You know, it's the Marvels is content. And then, you know, the vast majority in a pyramid, it's like a steeple-step structure. I got entertainment. Entertainment's always good. And then at the top, you have cinema. But you got a lot of content going around nowadays, and it's a lot of content that costs hundreds of millions of dollars. If you saw that Indiana Jones movie, I was like, holy shit, this is bad. That last Indiana Jones movie, and I'm like, I can't believe this. Like, you want to like it. Like, you don't spend $20 to go bag something. I could stay at home, and order a pizza or get a burrito or something, for my $20. You go because you want to enjoy yourself, and it's not possible. Yeah. They're not helping. They're not helping.
No, I know it, man. It's that's it's the torch that the all the new movie makers of today have to carry, and I'll tell you, I think a lot of it is an unwilling to want to deal with the risk, and there's a risk tolerance that you need to have as a filmmaker of understanding that making good stuff is way riskier than making safe bad stuff.
Yep.
And that is the type of people who are getting hired to direct movies, are whether they're buckling, because what I've been told, and just having my parents in the industry and my pops, who was my dad, he came from Sioux City, Iowa, and around my age, he was producing his first movie with Clint Eastwood. It's called Bronco Billy.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And it was my dad's movie, and and then he blew his career up and then was broke and met my mom at a yogurt shop, and they started writing together. So it had to break in twice, and but he told me that, and he's like, look, the studio people have always been like not wanting to take risk, and how can you guarantee this, and we want to cut, but you had these rebel filmmakers like Clint Eastwood, like Francis Ford Coppola, and these guys who put their foot down and said, this is the movie we're making. I know it's scary, studio, but you got to trust me. I'll deliver, and people will show up for this crazy Western thing that's violent. And it's like, you had these guys, Ford Coppola, and do it with Godfather, and they put their foot down, and they died on their making abilities, and it worked. And then it works, and then the studio says, we'll give you first look deal. But those guys were risk takers. Yeah. And that risk taking means your studio and your backers are going to want you to make a movie that they can guarantee them money, which is the most watered down, shitty, crappy movie that they know at very least they can get their money back in a little extra. And a filmmaker's job is to basically die for that script that got everyone excited by. And that sometimes is doing risky shit, like in Seven, like keeping Gwyneth Paltrow's head in the box or whatever. It's like, you hear these stories, but to actually fight for the moment when it's your moment is what's going to make your movie good versus what's going to make your movie safe. And when you start doing what's safe, you end up with a movie that is exactly the reason audiences don't want to go to movies anymore, because they're made by people who don't have visions. They're made by people who are trying to keep their jobs.
This is your third time on here. This is the third time we've ended up spending time talking about risk aversion.
Risk aversion. Yeah. Well, it's
risk aversion. We talked about it when I saw that script, and I'm like, you put some teen sex in there. I'm like, you could never do that. And I'm like, I remember asking you, how the fuck did Tubi let you get away with that? And you're like, well, they were okay.
They liked it. And it was like, the thing is, it's like, I'm not putting immoral teen sex in there. I'm putting in teen sex. And when there's teen sex that is immoral or whatever, that, there's something that crosses the line of someone doing something bad, they get killed by the haunting, right? Like, it's not an element of doing controversial stuff. It's actually treating the genre for what the genre is. And
it was actually something that a teenage kid would say.
Yeah,
it's something that a teenage kid would do. Try to push some boundaries. Try to push some buttons.
Yeah, and say stuff that's inappropriate and mean. And when they cross the line too much, the film punishes them, right? The villain gets them. And that's like watching, it's like, it would be like if I watched these Scream movies and they cut that stuff out, which is probably why I didn't like the last one. It's like it's kind of the reason why we like these movies like American Pie and these original things is that they were edgy, and they're not trying to be edgy for the sake of being edgy. They're just trying to be honest about,
right?
Like, there are characters in high school movies who are asshole bullies like Stifler and who make fun of people. And it doesn't mean that it needs to be a psychological drama about bullying. It can just be
Right.
like,
It's not a morality tale.
this is the asshole bully who gets women still. And why is this asshole bully get women? Because he's an asshole. You know, it's like,
Right.
it's just, and his character gets his comeuppance, you know, in the movie. And I think that stuff is just like truth, and it's cinema, and it's not, and that cutting that stuff is like cutting things that are just like entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
In the genre, right? You don't watch a Christmas movie and you want teens cursing and stuff, but when I watch a teen horror movie, I want to see some teen horror tropes that are original, but also like match the idea of you put some kids together and they're going to do some stupid shit.
Until executives figure out that they are not creatives, this will be an ongoing plight for you, my friend. But
Yeah.
you know, I was just thinking, you know, in the bigger picture of things, I guess you could consider these to be good problems.
They're really great problems, and
yes, they're good problems that you have.
They're lifelong lessons too, of like, you know, people have told me to cut stuff, and then those things that I didn't cut were the reason that a company bought something. So, you know, you just stand by your thing, and then, you know, there's a time where I have cut stuff where I'm like, yeah, you know what, I've taken this too far here, I'm cutting it back. And not because I think I'm being this, I just don't think it ceases to be entertaining anymore, you know? And I think there are people who make like teen horror, teen sex stuff, and they go too far.
Yeah.
And it ceases to be entertaining.
It just becomes gratuitous.
And so the gratuitous stuff is the reason that there's a bad stigma in the first place. But the well done stuff is what should be the bar. So don't like mute comedies and horror films because of the person who did it gratuitously.
It's
match the well one done, you know?
It's a seesaw, man. You're on the seesaw.
You're on that seesaw, man.
All right. Is there anything that we have not discussed that you would like to discuss in terms of the film? Any points that we've missed? We didn't get a chance to. I was going to go through a couple of bullet points with you before we went on, but then we just started going.
We just rapid fire.
Yeah. So, I mean, if there's anything else you'd like to let people know, I mean, what do you think? An approximate 6 months.
Yeah,
summertime, summer festivals.
Yeah,
it's gonna hit.
The film is going to be fully done and prepped for. I think we're prepping it for a Cannes Film Festival, so that's in March.
Whoa! So, look at you! All right.
That that would be my dream come true goal, a place to get into, and I think with the cast and with, you know, these kind of this foreign superstar Bai Ling and you know, Doug Jones and Eric Roberts, who are kind of like worldwide sensational people, that the film has this cast and it has this appeal where I really tried to make a non-American movie, a movie that's not like, oh, this is so American, this is so Southern California, this is so like only, you know, it's a very worldly, very dark, very genre tale that I think translates across the world. And so I'm a really big believer this film is going to do very well, just not just in the country. So that's kind of one of my you know, goals with it, is to really try to get it around the world. And so, you know, that
you got to keep me posted on that one.
Yeah. I will, you know, I will. But yeah, man, the film, you know, I've worked on a lot of things, and I you know, I tell you, man, this film feels like the one for me, just from all of the miracles that went our way on production that you wouldn't. And when it's out, I'll tell you all of the some of the miracles of stuff and light and just some of these things that shouldn't have happened that turn into these like creative blessings from massive problems and things falling apart. The film, I think the film will be finished in March, to like, you know, submit to the film festivals. And that's the main first thing, is just make it as great as it can be. So you know, I've been working every day just in post, just trying to make this story the best version of that story. And I you know, I love editing, and it's been an incredible experience to kind of, and I tell writers that like the final rewrite of a film is actually in post. And it's like taking one final look at my screenplay and saying, should I delete this character? Should I delete this line? Should I, like, right? You're getting one final chance to actually rewrite and shape that material before, you know, people see it. And so it's an incredible experience being a movie maker and making your movie. And, you know, I started making movies in my backyard, and then, you know, this summer I'm working with Eric Roberts, man. It's just a testament of like patience, persistence, make your movie, man. You know, I was on here with you, and I when I first met you, man, I was like, I had made this black and white film that like I spent a lot of my money and stuff, this indie feature, and nothing happened with it. We got into like one festival, and I was like, you know, it's just crazy, man. You just don't know. You just keep going. You keep creating.
Discipline, man, discipline. And you seem to love it. So that doesn't one sort of feeds the other, I imagine. Good for you, man. I'm happy for you.
Thank you for having me on, man. And
always, yeah.
Alexis, we've reached the mark where you're no longer showing up.
Yeah. It doesn't look like that one's gonna pan out. I'll tell you what, though, man.
All right, bye.
When this drops,
yeah,
I'd love to be able to see it.
Yeah,
and have you back on.
You bet. I'll make sure you have a cut, and we'll chat about it. And you know, I'll keep you posted. I think when the trailer drops too, there will be a lot more things that I can be public about because they'll actually be out there.
Okay, it'll be content, yeah.
With like just the characters that are introduced and kind of things. I'm trying to be cautious on just how they want to market it and everything. It's a new experience for me, having a team of people who are protecting that part of the movie, which I'm blabbermouth, man. I love to talk, so you know.
Yeah, right. But you know, you're at a different level now, so you know you gotta make those adjustments. That's growing.
Good. It's good growth, man. It's good adjustments, and it's been, you know, it's always a big learning experience, and I'm always trying to share what I know, and I really appreciate you having me, man. It's always such a blast. You're a friend now, so thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Same. I always love having you on. It's good conversation. You know, I get some feedback and I learned some things.
Yeah.
And it's been cool watching you, you know, sort of be on this journey.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm curious as to where it's going to go, you know, what's next, you know, what's next.
Me too, man. I'm curious too, man. You know, all right, boss.
All right, man. Well, my thanks once again to Spyder Dobrofsky for stopping in and shooting the you-know-what. We'll get you back when things start to cement a little bit more, and we'll talk some things out. My thanks to everybody in the chat, and I will send you, if you wish, the YouTube link for this, and if you wish to, you know, put it out there, you can. And we will see you all again in the next video. All right, have a good one, everybody, and have a good weekend. And I got to get myself to New York. I think I got to go see this Zack Snyder movie.
Get that plane.